All right, hi guys, and welcome. I'm Dr. Sloan, and today we're going to be talking about how to tie knots. I like to go over why we're doing the things we're doing as opposed to just how you're supposed to do it, because that way you know in any different situation that you encounter, you know, what the thought process is. What are you trying to achieve? Not just memorizing the steps to how to do it. So I hope you're all staying safe during the coronavirus, especially if you have to go into the hospital. So I'm using my shoe. Usually I'll tell students in the hospital wrap a loop of suture around their belt because then they can tie as they go. But for now, a shoe is a good example. And so when you normally tie your shoes, not talking about surgery, one thing you do is you grab one string and you grab the other string, you wrap them around each other and you tie a knot. Super easy. We all know how to do it. Now, what are you really doing in slow motion? You're taking the right string, you're wrapping it around the left string, and then you're putting it down. But what if we went the opposite direction? What if we went the left string and wrapped it around the right string? Would that be a different knot? And the answer is yes. That's a left-sided knot versus a right-sided knot. And so that's when you learn, as you've been doing your knot tying and your suturing, as you learn to use your finger or your thumb, or you pull in one direction or another, that's because there is a sidedness to everything, a left and a right knot. Now, when you put a right knot on top of a left knot, they want to unravel in different directions. The right knot wants to unravel by pulling this string. See how there it unraveled, whereas if I pull the other string, it would unravel as well. A right knot unravels in one direction. The string that goes over is the first string to come loose, whereas the left knot unravels in the other direction. The string that goes over is the opposite side. Now the string that's going over is coming from the left string, and so that's the one that unravels first. Since they unravel in different directions, if you put a right knot on top of a left knot or a left knot on top of a right knot, that stops them from unraveling, and that's what all of this is about. So let me do that, tying it the normal way. You take your right loop and pass it over and under. That's your normal right-handed shoe tie. But now I'm going to go the opposite direction. I'm going to take my left loop. I'm going to pass it over and under. And as you can see here, the bottom knot here is a nice clean spiral, nice and flat to the shoe, whereas this top knot kind of has this weird funny loop to it. That's because anytime you go in one direction and then the other, you have to cross your hands one of those ways. So for example, the first time I didn't cross my hands and I got a nice flat knot. This time, if I cross my hands like this, and just so you can see, I'm going to switch hands here, but you should never really switch hands. Now you can see that by switching, by going opposite or by switching hands there, that this second knot is nice and flat. And so if one of them you don't cross over, the second time you need to cross over. So my first one was flat, so my second one's crossed, my third one will be flat, my fourth one will be crossed, etc. Now here, this is a flat one, and then on top a right-handed flat one on the bottom, a left-handed flat one on top. You put those two together and you can see it creates this big loop complex here. That's your square. And now when I put them together, it creates this thing. It's two rows going into this over loop here, and that's called a square knot, and that doesn't unravel super easily. So normally when I do a knot, if I pull to one side it unraveled, and if I pull to the other side it unraveled, just like I showed in the beginning. And here I can pull to either side and the knot's not unraveling. And that's really important when this is holding skin together or holding a blood vessel from bleeding. And so that's what the square knot is for, so that things don't unravel. Now there's another knot that you guys, I don't believe were taught in class, or you may have been, but it's called the surgeon's knot. Now the surgeon's knot is when you need the bottom knot to be really, really tight. And the importance for that is when you're on a blood vessel, but theoretically it can be on the skin as well. When you go to throw your one knot, let's say your right knot, then you go to throw your left knot, you kind of pull up a little to do that, and that unravels this bottom knot. So how do we stop that from unraveling so that when I go to do the second knot, it doesn't pick up? What you do is, again, normal knot, you go right over left and you put it through. But before I pull it down and make the knot, I'm going to do that one more time. Right over left, and then one more time over the left. And that's going to create a double loop here. And then you throw it down. That double loop now does not slide. So now when I go to do my other knot, it's staying nice and flat on the shoe. As you can see, it might spiral to the left or spiral to the right, but it's not picking up off the shoe. It's actually a really nice way to tie your shoes when you're running as well. So you do that in one direction. So in this case, I'm going to go right over left twice and throw that down. Then I'm going to go to left over right once. And again, because I didn't cross in the beginning, see how it's twirled there? I got to cross my hands like that. so that it's untwirled, and that is a surgeon's knot. It's similar to the right over left knot, the square knot, but it's got a double loop on the first one, and you can see here, it's got the one going under and then two going under on this side, and that's your surgeon's knot. This really doesn't slide, so I can pull in any direction and that's not going to slide. And then you just put extra knots on top of that. So now you understand the concepts of what we're doing using the normal knot tying that you know how to do. Now, how do you do that? So normally when you go to grab a string, you grab it like this, and then, you grab it like this, and then you cross them over each other. And this is palm side up. Now you want to pronate your hand, palm side down. Okay, grab the strings palm down with your three inner fingers, your last three fingers, so that you can make this gun shape with your fingers. Now you really only need it with your right hand if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, you're going to make your gun shape with your left hand. Those of us have been doing this for a long time, actually are ambidextrous with doing this. Now, if you don't want to have to cross your hands the second time, you should pre-cross your hands the first time. Again, you always have to cross one of them. So if you cross the first time, you don't cross the second time. If you don't cross the first time, you do have to cross the second time. So we'll get back to that as I show you how to do the knots. But you overhand grab, put it in those three fingers, and there's two different directions for this. There's a pointer finger direction and a thumb direction. So the thumb goes one way, the pointer finger goes the other. So you make your gun, and you can choose which one to start. I always start with my pointer finger. So I'm going to wrap that around the string. I'm not going this way, as you see, where it's getting caught between my fingers. I'm wrapping it around so that it's in the same direction the string already is. Here it is in my hand, and now I'm going underneath it so that it comes right through the fingers and over my finger there. Next, I'm going across to the other string and crossing the strings over. So you can see here a connection between the strings, and if you look in this direction, there's like a hole here that I create. So I put my finger there, I cross over so that the strings are crossed. Once they're crossed over like that, I pinch my fingers together, I spin through that hole that I've created, I pass myself the left-sided string, I spin back through, and I put it down. Now you can see it's not laying flat because I didn't cross over already. So in order to make it lay flat, I have to do that. And I'm going to let go so you can see now it's nice and flat. So I would normally cross over and put it all the way down. Now that that's happened, now you can do your thumb side. And so you make your guns. You put your thumb underneath. Again, you're not going this way because that's weird and it locks your thumb against your finger. It feels weird. You'll get used to it. You're going to go underneath the string like this so that now your palm is facing outwards. So finger is facing inwards, thumb is facing outwards. You loop your thumb underneath. You cross over again to create this cross that you can see right there. Pinch, spin, pass yourself the left-handed string, spin back through, and then throw it down. And this time I shouldn't have to cross over, but because I switched my hands last time to show you the string, it looks like I'm going to have to cross over this time. And that's only because I switched my hands. If I had kept the strings in the same hands that they started with, you only have to cross over one of those times. And here you can see it's laying nice and flat, and that creates my square knot right there where two are going in and one goes across. So to do that without switching hands so that you can see what I'm talking about, fingers, I make my gun, finger first. One thing I can do actually is cross over first. If I do that, it allows me to not have to cross over later. So I'm going to cross my strings over first, grab it with my gun there and grab it with my fingers there. This needs to be on this side. If you try it on the other side, you'll notice that it doesn't work. I'll show you that actually first. So I grab it like this. I try to cross over and it goes behind my hand. That means that I crossed over in the wrong direction. So instead of crossing my left in front of my right, I want my right in front of my left. That way, when I grab like this, I my finger, I go across. Now it goes in front of my hand instead of behind my hand. And that way I can create this crossing here that we talked about before. So I pre-cross with my left string behind my right string. I grab the new right side, I grab the new left side. I put my finger there, I uncross them, and now you can see this nice four shape here and this nice crossover there. I pinch, spin to the other side, pass it over, spin back, and throw it down. Then I can do the thumb, and you notice I didn't stop. My right-handed string is still my right-handed string, but by pre-crossing, I didn't have to confuse things there. Make my gun again, thumb, pinch, spin, pass, and to throw it down, I have to cross my fingers so that it lays flat. And then you can do the right hand again, and it's flat. And then the left hand, thumb there, cross over, pinch, spin, and cross my hands. Go back to my starting position, guns, finger there, cross over to make the cross, pinch, spin, pass, and down. And then you end up getting this complex, this like chain of square knots that moves up.